Welcome to Nostalgic or Problematic, a generation in between series where we revisit and rewatch some of our core Xennial TV and movie memories. For those of you who are just meeting us, I am Danny.
And I'm Katie.
And this is our very first installment in this series, where we will be discussing the teen angst classic that launched a dozen celebrity crushes, and that is Dawson's Creek.
Yes, for our fellow Xennials, Dawson's Creek should hit somewhere in your high school, early college days. And on today's episode, we're taking a bigger picture look at the show, like when it ran, the stars that were on it, the music.
Oh,
so good. All of that. And in future episodes, we may even break those down a little more by episode. We'll see. We're rewatching it, so we may have more to say later. But today is just about the show itself and what it meant.
yeah, we're just going to set y'all up for episode 1, season 1.
Yes.
This is just an overview of the enigma that was Dawson's Creek.
Yes, exactly.
So before we get too far along, let's just go ahead and set the scene. So let's talk a bit about the what and who of Dawson's Creek.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, for those that need a refresher, and for those of you who are too young to even know what we're talking about right now.
That too.
Do you want me to explain it, or are you going to go?
Yeah. You know what? Tell us, what's the official synopsis of Dawson's Creek?
Okay, so the official synopsis is that Dawson's Creek is an American teen drama series about the lives of a close-knit group of friends in the fictional town of Cape Side, Massachusetts. FYI, originally filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina. Super fan, I know that.
Love it.
It begins when they're in high school and then continues into college that ran from January 20th, 1998 to May 14th, 2003. And
Wow.
I watched every single season.
Yeah. So, let's place ourselves in those years. So, what was Danny doing in that 5-year span?
So Dawson's Creek debuted in January of 1998, which was the second half of my senior year of high school.
Okay.
Okay. So I watched it. I think it came on Wednesday nights, if I remember correctly. Maybe Tuesdays.
Sounds right.
It was early in the week. Anyways, and I was hooked. I watched it every week. And then when I went to college, I lived in a dorm. And I was in a sorority, but we did not live in our sorority houses, fun fact, because I went to school in rural northern Louisiana, where there was a city ordinance in my town that if more than 5 females lived in a house, it was considered a brothel.
I knew where you were going with that, even before you said it.
I have no idea if that's still a thing. Now, could the guys live in the fraternity houses? 100%.
Oh my God.
So we had these small houses that were just set up for us for meetings and communal space. And we could go up there and hang out and stuff. It had a little code we would all use. So I lived in a gross dorm room. So me and some of my sorority sisters would go up to the sorority house on Tuesday or Wednesday night with our little snacks and watch Dawson's Creek.
Oh,
at the
I
sorority
love
house.
that.
And then we go out to the bars. But Dawson's Creek was first.
Yeah, you can't miss that.
No.
Oh, that's amazing. So, okay, so 98, yeah, I would have been second half of sophomore year in school.
Yeah.
And I just remember, for some reason, I have this strong memory of my chemistry class. I had a few good friends in there, and everybody in there liked it.
So y'all dissected it in biology?
Yeah, or chemistry.
Chemistry, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. And I feel like if I remember, so our chemistry teacher had these participation points, like a lot of teachers do. But the way he would take points off was kind of funny. You almost wanted to get in trouble because my maiden last name was Puwalski. He'd be like, Puwalski, -5. And I got a lot of them because I was very talkative, little chatterbox. And my chemistry teacher wasn't a big fan. So we would get all these participation points knocked off. We were supposed to be doing experiments, and we all be talking about what happened with Dawson and Joey and Pacey and everybody. And I just have this strong memory of that. And I know I watched it past then too, but I know we were all talking about it in there.
I didn't realize because it said it ended in 2003, and I remember the last episode. So I won't say anything about it. But I was a grown adult at that point. I was 23 years old, and I still watched that last season.
Yeah,
I was hooked.
As much as you can be a grown adult at 23.
Well,
but
true.
That's a big 5 years.
Yeah,
right. That's
a big 5 years
that
of
we
life.
were in. That we viewed this show in real time.
Yeah,
and saw the stars like get where they were going to be. So speaking of the stars, so if you haven't watched Dawson's Creek, you will probably recognize some of these names, either just from pop culture, or if you looked up pictures of these people, you'd be like, oh yeah, I kind of know who that is. So there were so many stars on this show, but there were like the main four, right, who got their careers launched from here. And there was Dawson, James Vander Beek, Dawson Leary, and the character was an aspiring filmmaker. He was living in New York. Oh, I'm like, what? Not Dawson. Let me try this again. The actor who played Dawson. I was like, wait, didn't we just say that this was in Massachusetts? I don't even know my own notes, you guys. Hold on. I got to like hold it away from my face, get my readers on. So James, the person, was living in New York at the time that the Dawson's Creek pilot was being floated. And he was a pretty regular child and teen actor, mainly on stage, mainly off Broadway.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So he was already, a pretty established actor, but not on the screen. So he was flown to California to screen test for the show, and he won. He won the role.
I have written down how old they all were. Okay, so here we go. He was 20 when they started filming Dawson's Creek.
Okay, so he was cast obviously a little before that, probably.
Yeah. So these all four of these main characters were going into their sophomore year of high school when the show started. Season 1, they were going to be sophomores.
Right.
Okay. Interestingly enough, only one of them was high school age.
And it was Katie Holmes.
No.
It wasn't?
No. It was Jen. It was Michelle Williams. She was 16. She was the youngest of the four. So James Vander Beek, we'll talk about the other few in a minute. Yeah. James Vander Beek was 20. Joshua Jackson, who played Pacey, was 19. Katie Holmes, who played Joey, was 19.
Okay.
So funnily enough, Michelle Williams
was the only actual age, but at least they weren't like 30.
No,
so
now
that.
In season 2, I think the oldest cast member that was supposed to be a teenager was the gal who played Andy, and she was like 25 or something. I didn't write that down. But anyway, yeah, interesting fact.
Interesting,
just throwing it in there.
So then speaking of Katie Holmes, the one
there we go.
I thought was a teen, who was 19, she played Joey Potter, who was Dawson's best friend, and at some point in the series, spoiler alert, love interest, sort of. She was shocker. She was rough around the edges. She was kind of this smart mouth, kind of sassy girl who kind of spoke her mind, and she was very small in size. So it was kind of these things were coming out of her mouth, that I'd say maybe most people weren't used to from young women, which is even more reason to love the character of Joey Potter. So this is pretty wild. So Selma Blair, who was a very established teen actress at the time, was up for that role. She almost got the role of Joey Potter, and she would have been great. Love her. But an unknown Katie Holmes sent in a self-tape. I don't know if there was a casting call or if she had an agent that her mom recorded in their basement. And her mom was reading the part of Dawson.
Love it.
Like off camera. So the producers loved it and invited her and her mom to California, but she couldn't go because she was in a school play.
Cute.
So she must have been 19 when it came out, and she must have been like 17 or 18 when they were casting. That's probably what it was. But still, can you imagine being like, well, I can't come because I'm in Guys and Dolls this weekend.
But if you're the lead,
I of course.
Right? You're not going to leave. And her mom was probably like, I don't care what they say. You fulfill this.
Absolutely.
Commitment.
And she's like, this is a sure thing, by the way. And I want like video or whatever she was taking at the time of you singing the song. So the producers were like, that's fine. And they invited her to come 2 weeks later. And that time she made it, and she screen tested, and she got this like life-altering role.
Literally life-altering.
Life-altering. Later in life was married to Tom Cruise. Has been in a lot of other things as well. But yeah, that's Katie Holmes. Then Joshua Jackson was their friend, Pacey Witter, and he was kind of the comic relief.
Oh my God, he was my favorite. Were you a Pacey or Dawson person?
I think back then, Dawson.
Ew, really?
Isn't that weird? I liked a polite young man.
And he was so sensitive. He was very emotional.
I loved that. I didn't like a kind of snarky whatever.
God,
but now as I'm rewatching, I'm like, oh yeah, like he's the better.
Dawson gets on my nerves. He gets on my we'll go into that when we start doing episode dissection, but just know going in, Dawson always got on my dang nerves the whole time. He just bothered me.
And I'm like, oh, Dawson.
And to me, he looked old.
Yeah. I did notice that when I've been rewatching.
Yeah. He looked like he was 20.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, you can rewatch it a couple different places streaming.
I'm watching it on Amazon.
Me too. I'm watching it on Amazon Prime. So you should be able to grab it on there if you're in Amazon. But I don't know when you're listening to this. And sometimes shows switch streaming. But anyway, as of right now, that's where we're watching it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Joshua Jackson, he was their friend Pacey. He was a womanizer. He was actually originally considered to be Dawson.
I know, which would not have worked.
Would not have worked. But producers felt like he was too buoyant.
Yes.
Not introspective enough. So there you go. But they wanted him in the show because he was relatively well known. He had been in The Mighty Ducks.
And they actually have some jokes in the first season about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I caught it. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute.
Oh, I
if you catch it.
loved The Mighty Ducks. We might have to do an episode on that.
Do you remember the name of his character?
No, and I didn't put it in here.
I think I have it in my notes. We'll go over it.
Okay, cool. So instead of getting the lead, he got the more suited role for him, which was Dawson's wisecracking best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then Michelle Williams, the true teen. Any musical theater friends out there who are younger that have seen The Greatest Showman?
Mm-hmm.
She is Hugh Jackman's wife and sings Tightrope in that movie.
She was also married to Heath Ledger.
She was.
Before he passed away.
Yes. And so she played Jen Lindley. And so she was this kind of city-wise girl from New York that came to Cape Side.
She was troubled.
She was troubled.
Quote unquote troubled.
Right. And she was sent to live with her grandparents.
Yes.
Who were very religious. Grams. And there's like this scene where she basically stands up to Grams and says, that's fine, that's your religion, but it's not mine. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry if you can. I was kind of like, good for her, but I was also like, this is really cringy. And the grandmother's like all upset about it, which I guess happens in real life. But anyway, so those were the core four. Obviously, there were many, many other characters who were introduced throughout the seasons. And you already said when the show kicks off, it's like right before school starts.
Yeah, it's like the day before or something. It's right before they start school. Again, we're gonna go episode by episode when we do our little rewatch. Mm-hmm. Even though we've already started, I finished the season 1 a while ago because we've been trying to record this for a while, and I started watching it and I could not stop. And I don't even watch TV. Like, I'm not a big TV person. I've said that before.
Yeah.
I just kept on.
Yeah.
I'm on season 2. Like, I can't stop.
And it had 6 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 6 seasons through the time period that we talked about. So, and they've got a decent amount of episodes each one.
Yeah.
They're not short seasons.
No. And we're just going to do the first season and talk about it and then see where we go.
See how we feel.
If we keep going or if we move on to something else.
And as we do that, I guess our intention is for you guys maybe to rewatch with us. And
rewatch with us.
Discuss episode 1. Maybe watch it before you listen, or listen and then watch. And we're gonna have other things in the series too. We'll have movies and stuff like that, which is probably a good time to plug our episode form because you can send us ideas there.
Yeah.
Particularly if you've noticed something that maybe when you were a kid you didn't notice in something recently that you've watched that is problematic to you. And again, this isn't our attempt to make things bad from childhood. It's just sort of like, okay, we know so much more now.
Right.
As adults, as mothers, as a society.
Yeah.
Revisiting these things, I think, is very interesting.
It is. Yep.
And it can tell us a lot about ourselves and our culture.
I think so too. And it's also good because for me, it's been showing me where some of my like ingrained biases came from that I didn't know I had.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And so And it's also interesting because the title of our series is nostalgic or problematic, but I think what's probably my guess is that it's going to be both.
Yep.
And that's a very gray area to sit in, to think, yes, there are pieces of it that are very nostalgic, but then there's pieces that are really problematic too. So how do you kind of come to terms with that? Like, can you separate, or should we separate? Question mark.
Right.
Yeah.
And at what point is something just so quote unquote bad, right? That it's not even worth
exactly
having as part of the cultural canon, right? Of the movies we watch or whatever it is.
And I think it's good to know why something is problematic and see if we've done better as a society, entertainment wise. I think a lot of things have been improved in that sense, but
I do too.
We'll chat because I already know all the things we're going to talk about from the first few episodes, and it's a lot.
It's a lot. Double standard much, yes.
Yeah.
But, So since we're not necessarily talking about episode by episode right now, one thing I wanted to remind readers. Hello, readers.
Hello, readers.
Hello, readers. I hope you're reading this podcast that you're listening to. Maybe we do need. Anyhow. So another thing that really went into this, right? It's not just the show itself.
Right.
It's the conditions that feed into a show being a hit or not. And that varies at what point in time you're looking at. We've talked before, like on our music club episode, we talked about, music was a lot more narrow. You didn't have all these sources to listen to it on. So you sort of just listened to what was fed to you unless you really went out of your way and had a way to find alternative music or listen to other people. And I'd say TV still around this time was similar. You did have cable, you did have things like that, but there wasn't really a lot to watch on the internet. There was definitely not streaming services where you just pick what you want.
Yeah, it was one day at one time on one channel.
Yes. And potentially you had some sort of recording capability depending where your technology was at in your home or college or whatever. But also, you didn't want to miss it. It was more of an event to watch a show once a week, Dawson's Creek or whatever it may be. So one of the networks that really embraced this sort of like captive teen audience, right, that really wanted to watch this stuff was the WB.
The WB, yes.
You know what's crazy? It's saying the WB debuted the same day that Dawson's Creek.
Maybe it did.
Wow.
I remember it being very new. When it came out, because Dawson's Creek came on the same night as another, maybe it was Buffy.
There were a few. Yep. There were a few big ones. So the WB debuted, again, January 20th, 1998, and it had other programs that debuted. Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Sarah Michelle Gellar, Seventh Heaven.
Oh my God.
Did you ever watch that show?
I was not a fan of that show. I would watch it while I was waiting for something else to come on because it was very cheesy. Like
very, very.
It was like the dad was a pastor, right?
Yep.
And it was like, yeah.
And I can't remember if it was 7 kids or
I think it was 5 kids.
5 kids plus
parents.
mom and dad. Okay.
So it's like your house.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to start calling our home. You know how people name their homes? I just be like, welcome to Seventh Heaven. And people are going to look around and be like, what
okay.
the heck? This is not that.
But I did watch Buffy. Oh my gosh.
Buffy's
loved that show.
Amazing. And I think, that might be another one we need to look at. I'd say a decent amount of things probably still hold up on that show. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it. So those were kind of the flagship shows, right? But that was sort of the spot, and that was their niche, the WB.
Yep, it was teens
maybe doing a little bit more edgy things. Even Seventh Heaven, like there might be like a moral at the end, but it was the teens and kids getting into trouble for things and experimenting with boys or girls or like whatever. So I found some really interesting marketing things because, y'all, I'm a marketer is one of my day jobs. I love knowing how people come up with stuff. And there's some interesting marketing things that align with Dawson's Creek that I said are just so 1998.
So 98,
okay?
yes.
So the WB, the network it was on, spent an estimated $3 million on marketing the show several months ahead of its premiere. And promotion included billboards,
Yes.
in addition to trailers in theaters before screenings of films like Titanic.
I remember that because I went and saw Titanic like 3 times. I did.
Did you see a Dawson's Creek trailer?
I think I did. I remember seeing a Dawson's Creek. I remember that was the first time seeing TV advertisements at the movies.
And yep, the WB was the first network to ever do that. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then J. Crew. I don't know. Do the kids wear J. Crew nowadays? Do they?
Oh, now I thought you meant in the show. I don't know.
Well,
Probably not.
probably not. J. Crew, as the kids would say, is preppy. It's a very preppy style.
It's very East Coast, North Carolina area.
Very much. And it was the show's official wardrobe provider.
Which you can totally tell when you watch it. Yeah.
Totally see it. And before the show aired, they featured the then unknown cast, so those 4 plus some other people, in the winter spring catalog, which came out before the show debuted.
Yeah.
So they, like, people, in theory, maybe you would know who Joshua Jackson was. Maybe you might know James Vanderbeek, but like, they were unknowns, just like good looking people in the catalog. And so the promos also ran in Blockbuster video stores featuring the Paula Cole song. Go ahead and sing it, Danny.
I don't want to wait
Good.
for our lives to be over. I want to know right now. Could it be? I don't know if that's the right word.
Oh, la, 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 la. Yeah.
Again, more bad singing
Here's
by
what you
us
should do.
today.
Listeners, you should go back 30 seconds, turn on your Shazam,
Yes.
and see if it figures out that that's what we were singing, and then let us know. Because if it did, we're going to feel like so flattered.
We're going to be okay with what just happened there.
Yes. Right. So that became the show's theme song. So originally the show's theme song was going to be Alanis Morissette's Hand in My Pocket,
Yeah.
which I love that song.
Do too, but that doesn't go.
It doesn't.
Maybe
Now
because
that you know.
Paula Cole is just ingrained in my head.
Yeah. And the whole, the whole opening sequence, right, with that music is just so perfect.
Yeah, it is.
So the WB's marketing campaign led Newsweek to say that Dawson's Creek is as much a marketing event as a small town serial about overheated hormones. Dying. So I like that. I like that word, marketing event.
I think they did wear J. Crew, but I think it must have switched later on, which I would love to look up because they're definitely wearing like American Eagle and Abercrombie in season 2.
Oh, interesting. So J. Crew maybe was just at the launch.
I would love to know if it switched.
Wow. Oh, that's really interesting. So also, in addition to all these ways, kind of sort of traditional ways they marketed, but in fun ways, the producers and writers were also the first to use cross-platform fan engagement through the series had its own website, which was still a pretty new thing to do. And it was known as Dawson's Desktop.
So funny.
And on this site, users can peruse Dawson's multimedia journal and homework files. Wow, exciting. Surf his bookmarked websites and listen to his CDs. They can read characters' emails and chats and go through their trash bins looking for the dirt. And according to show writer Jeffrey Stepakoff, Dawson'sCreek.com was where fans could not only chat about the show, but tell us what they wanted to see next. The wishes of viewers had a very strong impact on the direction of the series. In fact, staff members were hired to interact regularly with fans online. So,
I love that.
I mean, that's relatively common now to sort of have social media managers, right, who interact and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that was so new.
That was so new. To hire like a whole person to do that, it's pretty crazy.
I'm trying to see if it's still
Several
a thing.
people. That would have been a fun job too.
I'm trying.
What is it?
I'm trying to see if it's still there.
Is it there?
It just took me right to the Sony pictures.
Like the
It was a redirect because it says 25th anniversary of Dawson's Creek. Watch now on Hulu Prime and CW. Because remember, WB turned into the CW.
Yes.
Dang,
Wow.
25 years.
25 years. Wow. And, so that's kind of like if you haven't watched it ever or you haven't watched it since it first debuted and you're like, oh, you know what? Maybe I will watch it again. The info we've given you today is like a good primer, right? Like where to start to definitely kind of get in those nostalgia feels as you're watching and kind of revisit how you felt then and how you felt now. Or if it's the first time you're watching it, I'd be interested if there are young people out there, who have never watched it, maybe they know of it as a cultural reference or they know some of these actors, watch the first episode and then send us an email.
Maybe give it a couple.
Yeah, you might want a few.
I can't wait till we start talking about these episodes because wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. Or if you haven't rewatched it yet and you just have memories of it, share those with us too, because that might be interesting.
For real.
Like what you do, even what you remember about storyline, because there were a lot of things I forgot.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
Were some storyline things, and I'm still rewatching season 1, but there were some storyline things that I was like, oh, yeah.
Some I forgot and some I distinctly remember.
Yeah.
And it's really weird to watch as a 43-year-old lady because...
Well, you'll find out if you don't remember why it would be awkward to watch as a 43-year-old lady. Not awkward, but like very... You'd have a different reaction now than a teenage girl. I
will say, though, I still really enjoy I think the kids are great actors in the show.
They really are.
I mean, they're just very natural. Like, their reactions are very natural. I mean, they did a great job with casting.
They did.
For this show, like, 100%.
And the cinematography is really beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, they picked a great spot to film it.
They did. And I was thinking it kind of gave me Notebook vibes in a way, like with the water. Oh. And I think The Notebook's such a beautifully filmed movie, right? So it kind of reminded me of that in a way, just with the connection to the water and how they move around that way. And I don't know. There were bigger theme things that I don't think I picked up on as a teenager.
Yeah.
That I think are pretty well done.
Yeah.
And then there were things that I probably just kind of was like, oh my gosh, and no, they did not. Like as a teen, that now I'm like, oh my God, no, they did not.
Yeah.
And also they work in a video store.
I know. So, they do. They work in a video store.
Where you rent.
Dawson and Pacey work at a video store. That is their part-time job, which we'll do an episode one day about the video store because...
Definitely.
That was a huge part of my childhood.
Me too.
So
it was like a treat. You get to go.
Oh my gosh.
Pick out a movie. I remember we would do movie and pizza on Friday.
Yep.
And even like high school boyfriends and stuff.
Oh
like,
yeah, that's what we did.
We would go rent a movie and like go to one of our houses and watch it. And like that was our night.
Even when Troy and I first moved in together, I remember going to Blockbuster, like, and going to the new releases and seeing what's there. But I mean, even as a kid, I used to rent Nintendo games.
Yeah, you could
from there
games.
Too.
That's right.
Because they were so expensive, and you didn't know if you liked a game.
You didn't know.
So you tried it.
And actually, this would be good for the episode, but I actually worked at a Blockbuster for a while.
I mean, I feel like if you as a Xennial did not work at a video store, your friends did.
Exactly.
It's just like the movie theater. If you never worked at the movie theater, you at least had friends that did.
100%. That's such a great point.
Yeah.
But I'll save my Blockbuster working stories. They're nothing really great. Just like little time capsules. Nothing bad or good. Just time capsules. I did get to rent free stuff though, like all the time. And I got to the free releases first and that sort of thing. So that was cool. Or not free releases, new releases.
Yeah.
But anywho, all right. Well, so hopefully this has inspired you to maybe give Dawson's Creek a watch for the first time or second time. We are not sponsored, by the way. We are just excited because we're not even
endorsing it.
Oh, no. Oh, no. We're not putting our stamp of approval on it. Please do not watch with your children.
Oh, yeah. No. This, if you want to watch with your teens, fine. It's a show for teens. Fine. But like, I won't even watch it with my 5th grader because, I mean, it's a teen show. There's a lot to talk about sex.
Lots. And I mean, and it's fine for grown people to
sure.
enjoy. So hopefully this gets you a little excited and we'll have some more in-depth, at least watch episode 1 because that'll be our first one that we talk about a little more in depth with all of you on nostalgic or problematic. And if you have anything you think we should cover, definitely send it to our episode form, which is in our show notes and also linked in our Instagram and our Facebook pages for Generation In Between podcast. And thanks again for listening to Generation In Between, a Xennial podcast. Please share us, guys. Share us with your friends. Leave us reviews. Apple Podcast, you can leave a written review plus 5 stars. I think Spotify, you can only do the stars. And then depending wherever else you listen, it might be a little different. But whatever the best way is, go ahead and leave that for us. Share us directly. Like you can link to us or share our social media posts and say, hey guys, I just listened to this episode. It was great. Or tag your friends you watch Dawson's Creek with and have them listen to this one. There's lots of ways that you can kind of get the word out there about the podcast because it really makes us inspired when our viewing numbers go up, and it makes us really want to come up with more ideas. Plus we get to know all of you, which is definitely a perk of this job, if you want to call it that, this hobby, this whatever it is. So thanks for listening. And before next time, let's watch Dawson's Creek, season 1, episode 1.
See you at the creek.
We'll see you at the creek.
That sounds weird.
Bye, guys.
Okay, bye.